And we're live. Awesome. Well, I am Tammy Anderson Ward, and I want to start today by introducing this new segment on our YouTube channel, and we'll also be broadcasting it on our other locations as well. Our not just our YouTube, but also our Facebook, and inside of our Facebook group, the Energy Healing Conference Facebook group as well. But the objective, our goal is to introduce you to professionals, energy healing professionals, and their stories as well. So I'm very pleased to introduce this new segment of video interviews that we'll be doing. Our goal is really in the spirit of energy, of respect, sensitivity, collaboration, and to give more exposure to energy healing practitioners as well, to increase awareness and also to build community. So I am looking to introduce more energy healing professionals. So if that's you and you'd like to be included in maybe an upcoming interview, please feel free to send us a request. This is something that you can definitely apply for. There's no cost to it whatsoever. And we just are trying to get the word out. So today with me is a friend of mine that I've known. How long have we known each other? I'm trying to think.
Definitely, 3 years?
I would say at least 3 years,
Yeah.
possibly even just a little bit
Yeah.
more. But I'm so pleased to introduce you to my friend, Hetal Patel. And she is a nurse, and she is also an integrative energy medicine practitioner who utilizes a holistic approach of body, mind, emotion, and spirit to help her clients return to a state of balance and wholeness. And she's really passionate about increasing awareness of self-care to help enhance the quality of life. She specializes in stress and anxiety management, relaxation therapies, nervous system health, and mindset practices as well. She deeply enjoys helping her clients transform their lives and break free from the cycle of stress and overwhelm that results in fatigue and burnout. And I'm really excited to introduce her to all of you. Let's see, you're based in, is it the Sacramento, California area? Is that right?
San Francisco,
Oh,
the Bay
San
Area.
Francisco. I knew it was
That's okay.
northern parts.
Northern
That's
part,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, very, very cool. What we're going to do is we're going to start with your early years, your formative years for the first little bit here. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up and what was that like?
Sure. I wanted to just thank you, Tammy, for thinking of me, and I'm excited to be here and just share, how I came into energy healing. So, I was actually born in a small city in India. So my first
Oh,
5 years of life actually were in India, and then we migrated here, my parents, when I was 5. So
cool.
that was sort of
That's awesome.
yeah, exactly. So then, pretty much after that, my dad was working, and we moved quite a bit till I was 15. So my formative years were I would say a lot of like moving, you know what I mean? Like not feeling
Mhm.
unsettled a little bit, but it was
I
good.
didn't know
I
that we had
mean,
that in common. I also moved a lot as well.
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
like
I didn't
every
know
couple
that
of
about you.
years.
So what kind
Yeah.
of where did you live?
So, when we came to the States, my dad's brother, my uncle, my older, dad's older brother, he actually had us, come stay with him in Texas. And it was like, I mean, like literally like a very small town.
Mhm.
It was, I think, like 1,000 people. That was it. And so like we stayed there. Yeah. And then, my dad found work. So we moved about a few hours away from there to another small town. And then
Cool.
we went to Louisiana,
Oh.
another small town. All of these were
Mhm.
like little small towns, so I kind of felt out of place, to be honest with you, because we were kinda like the only brown family, like, if that
Mhm.
and so it was kinda difficult. And then, when I was about 11, we moved to Dallas, Texas. And then when I was 15, we settled into Atlanta, and that's kind of from, like, 15 to, like, 25, I was there. And then I got married and, moved to California.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know these things about you, and I'm so excited to have heard a little bit more about, when you were growing up and stuff because yeah, I went to 19 different schools before I graduated, so we definitely have that
Wow.
in common. And there are some kind of quirks or whatever about
Mhm,
some of the small towns, and you're saying, we were the only Brown family. I don't have that personal experience. I can imagine
mhm.
that there are some challenges that have kind of come along with that. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, there were some challenges. So this is like early, no, like early to mid 80s when we came. So it was just different. And then, of course, my name, people couldn't pronounce it. So it made me even feel more like with identification. I didn't want, like, I just let people mispronounce my name. I was
Yeah.
kind of shy and introverted, because of just kind of wanted to blend in, but it was so difficult. How can you blend in, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was difficult, and I think the other part is that, like, my dad spoke English, but, like, my
Mhm.
mom didn't,
Uh-huh.
and so it was a lot, like, even, like, with my mom, like, if I had to, parent-teacher conference was always with dad, and it was just kind of weird, right? Because everybody had kinda like their mom, so I had to always, like, depend on my dad for a lot of, like, I
Yeah.
guess, school stuff, you know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can appreciate that too because sometimes leaning on your dad, when you're a little girl there's some challenges that
Yeah,
can come along
yeah,
with
like,
that as well.
sometimes, like, even grocery shopping, and it was, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking back to I lived with my dad as a teenager when it was, like, my first time, like, that time of the month or whatever, and
Yeah,
I'm in the bathroom crying, and I'm telling my dad, "Just go to the grocery store and get me some things," and he's
mhm,
like, "What do I get? I don't know what to get."
right,
I'm like, "Just go help me," It's
yeah,
like so, yeah, there's, like, some challenges that kinda can come along with that, so did you feel
yeah.
like your family was, like, accepted and, like, appreciated for their diversity and their differences in these small towns as you were kinda moving around a little
Mm, I don't know if I had awareness of that, if, we were being accepted. But I do know, like, I guess I more relate to, like, the kids, and so, like, when people would say, "Oh, where are you from?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm Indian." I don't know why I would say that, and then I would get, like, they would say, "Oh, you're, like, Native American," and then, like, "No, I'm not Native American." You know what I mean? And so it was like that kinda thing, and then, being made fun of a little bit about that, which, sort of affected
Oh,
me. As far as, like, my parents, they would make a few friends, like, kind of in the neighborhood, so they would, like, take me to school, like, if our car broke down and things like that. So I think that was okay overall, but I just knew I was different, if that makes sense, which always made me feel sorta not a part of it, a part of, like, a circle.
yeah,
And, the other part was also that, just growing up in general, I mean, small towns, one thing, but even, in general, it was like going into like Western school system, but then being totally Eastern at home.
yeah,
There was just, it was totally like, I would say my childhood was like kind of full of confusion, with like,
yeah.
who am I?
Yeah, wow. Well, I really
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing a little bit more about this. And some of these topics, it's just like so important to be able to speak about them because when you put light on them, I feel like it helps to soften hearts and help people to have more understanding. And I live in Utah where 97.5% is white people. And
Mhm.
it's that can have so many challenges in and of itself. You know what I mean? Because like how as a young person do you learn to appreciate diversity and
Yeah.
it's just like there's so many things with it. I actually moved to New York City when I was 17 and so that was a
Oh.
culture shock to me. I appreciate diversity so much and so I
Mhm.
just really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what were you like as a little girl when you were younger? I want to hear a little
Yeah.
bit more about you as a girl.
Sure. So I think I was pretty sensitive, and empathetic a lot. Like my mom, even to this day, she'll tell me like I would just kind of take on, kind of what the family was going through, but also they couldn't tell me anything either. They said that if they even like told me any little thing, like I would just like cry, and like I was a very like sensitive person in general. Like, like they could not like criticize me or even tell me anything. Like I would just start bawling. So, and I think like, and shy, I think I said that already. And a lot of my childhood, I think I love to read, kind of like go into my own cocoon, if that makes sense. I wasn't like super outgoing or anything like that. So reading was big. And then something I really enjoyed was like, I was always into sports, like my dad also was into sports. And then we had a lot of cousins that were boys. And so they were all into sports. So I was kind of like a tomboy as well, growing up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can relate with you on some of those things as well. And like given the circumstances that you're kind of talking about, like moving around and stuff, sometimes when that happens, it's like you make friends. And as soon as you get like establishment of friends, then like you got to
Same.
move again. You got to start all over and be that like new
Yeah.
girl all over again. Right. So
Yes, and I do definitely think I closed off, a little bit on like, connecting with people until like I would say probably like 15 or 16 when I knew like, okay, Atlanta. Like we knew that was our home because my parents bought a business and I knew like we weren't going to be moving around for work anymore. So I think at that point, but then that was like I was like what, a sophomore in high school,
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I love
yeah.
Atlanta. I
Oh yeah.
that's yeah, I've traveled there for work before and love Atlanta. So
Yeah, we love Atlanta. My parents are still there, my brother's still there, so we
good.
go there often. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. In fact, their what's it called? Aquarium is like my favorite aquarium I've ever been to.
Yes,
I've traveled
yes,
to lots of different aquariums all across the country, and that's my by far my favorite one.
it is a really good one, yeah.
So much history and definitely rich in diversity and very, very good.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more, like when you were a little girl, what were some of your interests? You said books. Were there any other things
Mhm.
that you really dove into?
Sure. So I was really so I don't know if this was an interest, but it became an interest. But like culturally, like since I was like maybe 8, I was in the kitchen with my mom, because like you're expected to cook and learn kind of like all the workings of the kitchen. So I don't know, it was forced upon, but I really enjoyed it, after a while, like learning different things. And then
Mhm.
also, my grandmother, they came like I think 10 years later after we came, and so then they stayed with us too. And so I actually really loved learning about kind of like Ayurvedic kind of things, or like little concoctions that my grandmother would like tell me, and she'd always be teaching me about like, our religion and kind of prayers that we do and things like that. So I was always soaking in a lot of stuff. I think I was a different child at home, more
Mhm.
curious, more open, more wanting to learn versus being in the schools.
Uh-huh. Now,
Yeah.
okay, let me go to a question that popped in my head. So I could just imagine you as a little girl in the kitchen and learning some of this. What were like one of the concoctions that you were thinking of that like that was something that you maybe commonly did or something that you really liked?
Oh, okay. You mean like cooking wise or
Mhm.
okay, so we did like a lot of like, roti. Have you it's like a bread, right? Like that we had to make like chapati. And so
Mhm.
it's like we eat it with like curry or like, with like vegetables. And so that was one of the main things that like my mom was like on me about because we had to make them perfect and round. And I don't know, it was just kind of like fun, it was creative. And so that's something that we did like every day. That was like a staple
Oh,
like
that's
in the
cool.
home, like every day we were cooking that. As far as like that was one of my favorites because that was easier to do than a lot of the other detailed cooking because of all the spices that you have to put
Mhm.
into our cooking and like the measurements. And it was not measurements like 2 teaspoons or whatever. It was like my mom was just kind of like
Yeah.
winging it. And you had to kind of just
Yeah.
say, oh, for this amount of like, rice or whatever, not rice, I'm sorry, vegetables, you put in this much turmeric or this much, chili peppers. So it was just more like creative, but then it had to taste good, right? So
Yeah, that is so fun. I love that. That's so
yeah,
good. Well, and all of that is, like, so healthy too.
yeah, yeah.
The turmeric is has been now, like, shown
intensive.
to be so good for inflammation. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, there's just, like, so many
So
things. So,
many things. Yeah.
that's very, very cool. So you did those kind of things, and then your grandma came, so you got to also, like,
Yeah.
learn alongside of her as well.
Her, yeah. So she was not my mom was pretty much the cooking person, right? But my grandmother did a lot of, like, the prayers and things like that that we do in the morning. So in our house, like, we had, like, a temple in our, like a dedicated prayer area, and so we would put, like, gods and goddesses up, and so then my grandmother would be teaching me, like, Ganesha, this is the god that, helps remove obstacles, and, I mean, she was saying it in Gujarati, which is the language I speak, but I kind of got into all of that, and then, about prayers in the morning, like, lighting a candle to bring in light over darkness and things like that. So, so I was really, like, loving that part of it too. And then the other part of my grandmother was like, if you ever got sick or had a tummy ache, you were not reaching for any kind of medicine, right? She was like, I don't even know what it is to this day, but she used to make this paste and then rub it on my belly because I used to have a lot of just tummy aches. And she'd
Mhm.
make, like, this paste for me and rub it on my belly and then put cotton over it. And then I had to, like, let it air dry for, like, I don't know. She would tell me to go to sleep with it, and then, like, in the morning, we'd, like, remove it and the tummy ache would be gone. So it
Wow.
was, like, those kind of things with her, it was more of, like, more cultural. I don't know if it's Ayurveda. She never said that, but I'm assuming it's kind of the principles of that.
Mhm.
And then, like, if we got sick, like, if I had a sore throat or anything like that, it was just, like, she would just be in the kitchen, like, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and, making a paste, and I had to drink that. So I didn't want to because it doesn't taste good, a lot of the stuff, but she
Yeah.
would be like, just try it." And so I
So
felt
what
like I was, like, so rich, right? I got such a rich upbringing, but I
Yeah.
was still so confused because then, like, I really couldn't bring the Western stuff home. I don't know, or I felt that way.
Mhm. Yeah, you're like, should I tell grandma that I have a stomach ache or a sore throat or not?" Right? I remember, something very similar when I was younger as well because my grandma, she was a nurse, but she did more of the natural stuff. She also studied herbalism
Mm.
as well. And so, like, if we got a sore throat, my grandma wouldn't go take us to the doctor. She would actually have us gargle cayenne pepper. And so, as a little girl, I can also relate with you on that because I'm thinking like, yeah, my grandma used to do something very similar. So,
Yeah, yeah. So it was good, but then I was also like, "Oh, should we say
yeah,
something or not?" That's true.
gets to the point where you're like, I better say something, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
oh, that's so cool. Okay, so grandma came, she was teaching you prayers, and what kind of like belief system did you guys follow when you were younger? Is that okay if I ask that?
Yeah, sure. So, like, religious-wise, it was Hinduism,
Mhm.
right? So we followed that. Um, and then belief-wise, like, I really believed, in, like, a higher power, a lot of spiritual connections, growing up. And then, kind of like values that we had were like, honesty, tell the truth. Those were kind of like some of the big ones. Responsibility was another big one. Like, we were responsible. Like, because my parents didn't go to school here, right? So they didn't know, like, homework and all that. Like, that was just kinda on you. Like, you
Yeah.
just had to figure it out, you know? So that and then, like, kind of a lot of, like, go, go, go energy, though, like, work hard, Like, that was, like, a big thing for us, and, the whole caretaking, like, my grandmother, my mom, like, it was, like, my grandfather was taking care of my dad. Like, it was, like, a very male patriarchal kinda system, and so as a little girl, it was kind of like or, like, even not a little girl, but, like, even teenage years, like, you knew, like, you had to take care of people, and be in, like, this sort of, like and then kinda
Mhm.
putting ourselves last a little bit. I felt like my mom was the last to eat, then I would eat with her, and so we just kinda took care of the whole family, right, first, and then the women were kind of last. So
Yeah, so you were like the nurturer and
mhm.
the yeah, so like but inside and outside, right? So like even
Yes,
like if somebody was like hurt emotionally, then they'd go help them. Is that right?
that's right. Yes. Yeah, I didn't think of it as negative or anything like that. That was just our family, right? And like I really believed in that too. Like, just seeing my grandmother take care of me. And then, I have a little brother. He came a little later though. I was 8 when
Mhm.
he came. And so then it was just a lot of caretaking. I was almost like a mom to him, I feel, like because my parents were working, and then I was like kind of, I don't know. He also says that. He says, "Yeah, you're like my second mom."
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that happens, when there's an older, like, sister, right, who's very, like, empathetic and very nurturing and caring and stuff, so
Yeah.
I bet he really appreciated that about you. That's really
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like you did have some challenges. What were some of the, like, highlights of your childhood that you really appreciate, that you really, like you think about it now and you're just like, "I really enjoyed that," like, you feel a lot of gratitude. Tell us about some of those.
Yeah. Okay. So even though like the whole moving parts, every couple of years, I do think it made me a stronger person in the sense that I could handle maybe whatever situation I was placed in. So
Mhm.
I do have a lot of gratitude for that, that, okay, you can put me here, put me there, I'll figure it out
Mhm.
myself. I also have a lot of gratitude for just how my parents, came here and made a life for themselves so that we could have a better life,
Yeah.
right? So I have a lot of gratitude in that, even though those first like 10 years were very difficult, for me as a child, but I do have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for even them taking the courage because it was a new thing for them too,
Oh, yeah.
to come into like a different country, learn the language, and get established here. And yeah. And I think it taught me to always, like you said, this nurturing, caring part of me. It was because I wouldn't want anyone else to feel the way I felt, so I always like teach that to my kids as well, that like, okay, like every time there's like a new child or a new student in their classroom to like welcome them and, things like that. So I'm very grateful for all of it, and also like the fact that I got to live with my grandmother, I think like, because she was kind of like my caretaker from 0 to 5, really, because
Yeah.
my mom says that. And my mom's like, yeah, like, I was handling all the household things in India and, grandma would be taking care of you too, and so then we had like a little break for 10 years and then she came back. And then, kind of, she's still alive. She's 99.
Oh my goodness, that is such a blessing. How cool is
Yeah,
that?
I know.
Oh, I just love that. I feel like that's really, definitely something to be really grateful for. I just feel like
Yeah.
that's so cool. My grandma was, one of my biggest cheerleaders and absolutely one of my best friends, and we just celebrated her graduation is what we call it.
Oh,
She passed on 7/7 of '07, so
oh,
literally
wow.
16 days and, like, 3 days ago, right? 16
Well, yeah.
years, 3 days ago. But, yeah, she was in a car accident. That's what happened to my grandma.
Oh,
So, it wasn't because of poor health, right? Like, she was constantly taking care of everyone, and she was a nurse, kinda like you in that way.
yeah.
But she was also open-minded and just really wanted to help people to be able to heal. So, I just feel like
Yeah,
our grandmas maybe had some things in common, right?
for
To be able to
sure.
help us kind of on our journey.
Yeah.
That is really cool. I love that. So is there anything, like, significant about your like, any experiences about a healing like, is there, like, 1 or 2 stories that you can think of when you were younger that kind of stand out to you? Sounds like it was a pretty regular thing, a pretty,
Mhm.
like, daily even with, the cooking and the nurturing
Yeah.
and the caring and even with the belief systems with the religion,
Mhm.
every single day doing things to be able to help bring in more light, which
Yeah.
is so positive and so good. So
Yeah.
so is there any experiences that kinda stand out to you?
No, not nothing in particular, just what I shared, like with the tummy aches or like any kind of like if we were sick or if we had like even like an ouchie or anything like that, it was just using more of like you said, like I don't know if it's herbs or I don't know, whatever it was, right? Like whatever she used, the yeah. So, but no, nothing specific because I felt like it was just a normal practice we did every day, but I didn't do like, there wasn't like any per se like education or energy, like this is energy work or, I didn't really put all that together till much later.
Yeah. Yeah. That was going to be one of my next questions is, did your upbringing include energy healing education? So is there anything that you can look back on in your childhood now and identify, oh, that was energy healing, even though it may not have been called that back then?
Right. Well, my, grandmother, she used to make us chant Om, and then
Hmm.
with the mala beads, so I would think that's, like,
Definitely.
definitely, something like that, and she would just make me so, she'd have, like, the mala beads, and then she'd just tell me, like, count, like, say, Om, 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 like, and we just would did that, like, was it what are the mala beads? 101, I think, 101? I don't know, whatever the number of beads were, I don't remember, but, she would make us do things like that, so I think that's definitely,
Yeah.
a connection practice. A lot of
Yeah.
things that, like,
Definitely.
yeah, a lot of things that my mom and her, because my mom was also, doing all this alongside her, they never really explained it to us of why we're doing it either, right? So it was just more of like, just do it because it'll help you, right? And so then it was later on that I kind of pieced it all back, that's what that was. That's what this was, otherwise it was just like, okay, pray in the morning and, like for, health and, abundance and all that. And but you just didn't put things together. I didn't put things together till much later,
Wow. I
that
love
that's what we
that.
were doing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so much for sharing that. And
Yeah, sure.
if you guys that are watching live right now, if you guys have any specific questions, please feel free to also comment. Um, love encouragement. Of course, this is one of our very first interviews, so I'm always looking for like new ideas. Our goal is to help to get to know the energy healing practitioner better, more about their upbringing and their what they're doing now as well. So if you have any other questions specifically, please feel free to comment below as well. I'm so grateful for Hetal's um, willingness to be open and share like herself and her life. I just love this so much. So thank you so much. You're so awesome.
Yeah, sure, thank you.
So absolutely. So tell us, how did you very first start learning about energy healing? Where did your story begin with
Mhm.
official like education?
So officially, it was unofficial because so my husband is like the youngest of like 4 siblings, and he has 3 older sisters. So,
Mhm,
his like the middle and the youngest are were always into sort of like complementary and like alternative healing. So, like, I first kind of when I married into the family, his
mhm.
sister would give me crystals.
Oh
And
wow.
she'd say, like, "Use this for that, and use this for that, and place it here in your home," right? And so I kinda started to say, "Oh," and then I really liked it, right? She would tell me, like, hold the crystal and, like, setting intentions, and I would feel, like, the vibration in my palms. So it was a very simple things like that initially. And so I
Mhm,
just kind of, went with it, and then, I would say my biggest sort of aha moment or, energy was that in 2008, my in-laws were building a house in India, like in their village, and they wanted all of us, like the kids, to go to India. And we went to London, which is where my other 2 sister-in-law live. And there we had a big layover. So my sister-in-law came to meet us there, right? And we had a big layover, and she was just we're in a big hotel room. We had this like 9-hour layover, and she's like, "Oh, I'm learning like this, I don't want to say new age, but she didn't say new age, but whatever, like complementary work." So she was doing
mhm,
like sessions on everyone. And then she was
mhm,
like, "Well, do you want to work on anything?" And I said, "Okay." I said, "I used to suffer really bad with reflux,
mhm,
acid reflux." And so, like, there's like 15 people in the room, and she just kind of did some, I don't want to say pressure points or just some work on my body.
mhm,
And I didn't think anything of it. She just said, "Okay, see how you feel." We went to India 3 weeks later, whatever, came back. And it was not until we came back that I told my husband, I said, "I haven't reached for the Tums or,
mhm.
Prilosec or Nexium or whatever I was using like to help me with my reflux." And
Wow.
he said, "You're right." Because we took, I take it to India because I was like, I'm sure I'll get heartburn with the time change and eating and all this.
Oh yeah.
And it was not until we got back that I realized that I didn't like I didn't use anything. And he was like, "Wow." I said, "I know, wow." So I called my sister-in-law up and I told her. And that's when I first felt like, "Oh, wow, this stuff is real."
Yeah.
Because like I said, she did this. 10, 15 people in the hotel room. She did a few things on me and said, just see how you feel. I didn't think anything of it because I was not like 100% in it at the moment. But then I was like, whoa. And then she came like the following year
Mhm.
to visit us. And she just came and she just did like sessions on us. And I mean, it was just amazing, amazing stuff. I just felt relaxed and just more grounded. And so that's how so 2008, I would say, is when I had that big experience. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, this
I
stuff
love
works.
I love hearing about that. Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions about that specifically. So she worked on you for a few minutes in a
Yeah,
hotel room. She didn't have any surgery
right.
tools. She didn't give you like a prescription or anything like that. It was nothing like that. And she didn't make any claims or promises or anything like that. She just said, see how you feel when it was done, right? And okay, so how long before that day that she worked on you, how long had you been reaching for the Tums? How long had it been
Oh,
a chronic issue for you?
it's been a chronic issue since probably like I was like 18, 19 when I went to like college.
Mhm.
And the stress of nursing school and all of that. So for a long time. So that was what was I don't even know how old I was in 2008. What was I? Almost 30? Yeah, almost 30. I was like 28, right?
Wow.
So yeah, so about 10 years that I was like up and down with.
So it wasn't like you'd had heartburn for like a week and
No,
then
this
it
was a
went
chronic.
away. This was like something that had been, and has it come back since? Like, have you had like,
No, I
wow.
haven't. That's what I'm saying. Is it was like it was crazy. Like, because even though like the crystal stuff that I kind of started working with, I knew that it was out there. I knew what my grandmother did, but this was just amazing, right? And
That's cool.
so I know. So no, it's not come back, thank God, because that's not. It was never a fun thing, right? Because it's like you're always like taking something for that or
Yeah.
needing like a fix, like the Tums or I don't know
Yeah.
what's out there now because I don't really use anything. But that's what I remember the Tums like little packet that I would keep in my purse.
Yeah. Well, I actually have 8 babies, and all of my pregnancies, I had really bad heartburn,
Mm.
and so I would take Tums, right? But then I would have lots of kidney stones too.
Oh, that's
And
yes.
finally, my doctor at the time told me, "The reason why you're having those is because of the Tums that you're taking, it's building up." And anyway, that's what I was told. So, like, those kind of things that you take, sometimes they can have side effects, even though it would get rid of the heartburn kind of,
Quickly? Yeah.
momentarily or whatever, right?
Exactly,
To get
yeah.
another one. But did your energy healing that your sister-in-law did for you, did you have any side effects from that?
No, just feeling better. That was like
Yeah. That's always really good to hear, right? Like,
it
well,
is.
people ask me those kind of things, like, "What
Yeah.
kind of side effects am I going to have?" And those kind of things, so I always like to ask that as well. Well,
No, I
awesome.
didn't have any side effects. I honestly, like, it was such a fleeting thing. I didn't even think anything of it, like I said, until I got back home, unpacking, saw I never used that, and then it's like everything clicked. You know what I mean? And then of course, and then when she came a year later, she like literally, she just like worked on us like with the modality that she uses that she learned in UK. And so it was just like I was just like wow. And so that's when my interest really peaked when she came that following year and worked on us. And I said okay. And then I was still nursing, like clinical setting, and then I had my kiddos. And then I was like, okay, so I kind of like just, didn't do anything formal again. You know what I mean? After that, I just kind of thought about it. Um, and
I
then,
love that. Well, and it really piqued your interest too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
When you have something significant like that happen. So
Mhm.
when you first started having interest in learning more about this for yourself, did you have any reservations for yourself about learning it, or did any of your close loved ones have any reservations about
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't have any reservations because I'd like to tell you another story, which really got me to go into the education piece of it.
it? Mhm.
So, but I know my loved ones did have reservations, and I can kind of come back to that if you want. But
Okay, sure.
so what happened is, so I had my 3 babies, right, back to back, like every 2 years. And in 2014, After the delivery of my third son, I got preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, and I don't know if it resulted in it, I think it did, but I got Bell's palsy on the left side of my face, which I don't know if you know what that is, but, it's
Yeah,
like
it's
a
like
facial nerve. Yes, like
paralyzed.
paralyzed, yes,
Mhm.
and I woke up in the morning, brushed my teeth, and I was, like, spitting out the water, and it was, like, shooting, like, this way, right? And I'm like, "What? What's going on?" I thought I had, like, a stroke, seriously, like,
Mhm.
something. I was, like, freaking out, and I'm like, "What is going on?" I called my doctor. They couldn't see me until the next day, right? So then I was like, "Do I go emergency room or do I just kinda, like, wait it out?" Right? And so, like,
Mhm.
the nurse in me said, "Wait it out," 'cause there was nothing else going on. It was just, like, this little spit, like, and then, like, when I was drinking, I was, like, dribbling a little bit. So then now, everybody does this, go on Google, right? Like, "What does this mean?"
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I kinda self-diagnosed myself with
Yeah.
Bell's palsy. And so then I went the next day to the doctor and he was like, "Yeah, you have that." And I was like, "What do we do for it?" Right? And he was like, "Well, I'm gonna give you these steroids." Right? Basically, that's what he said, like anti-inflammatory, like really heavy duty steroids. It was like a week, I think I had to take them, right? And he
And you
said,
were
"You should get."
pregnant?
Say that again?
And were you pregnant at that time too?
No, I had already delivered
Oh,
Ethan. This is after the delivery,
mhm.
and so I was taking care of him and my other 2 and going through this, and so I followed what he said, and I went and took it because I had it's like, "What's going on?" Right?
Mhm.
And then I had to tape my eyes shut. I mean, there's a lot of things with Bell's palsy you have to do because you can really, like, scratch because you can't blink, like,
Mm.
and then all that anyway, and so then I was like, "Okay, this is it. I've got to do something, right?" And so that's when I started working. I researched what can I do for Bell's palsy alternatively. So I started working with an energy medicine practitioner and also an acupuncturist to
Okay.
help me because it was not just the physical part, but all the emotional part of it too, right? Like I don't have a lot of pictures with my little one because
Mhm.
I was going through this. And so I mean I have pictures of him, but not like us together, right? With the
Yeah.
whole thing of the face.
Mhm.
And that's where I was like, I want to do this because I want to help other people that like just because you have a physical ailment, like
Mhm.
there's other things that you can do to enhance and support the healing of that. And I definitely think my energy medicine practitioner working with me, the grounding, the stress relief, just helping me feel more in acceptance of what was going on. And then the acupuncturist really working on that meridian and whatever I mean, it was just amazing, and I think, like, I healed faster
Mhm.
than maybe, like, it would have taken because I know they say, like, Bell's palsy will just heal on its own even if you don't do anything, but I
Mhm.
didn't wanna wait to do that, like, I wanted to take some action, and so that's how after that, I was like, "Okay, I'm sold," right? Because even when I went to see my doctor the next time, he was also impressed with how much functionality I had, like, regained, and I told him what I did, and I
Mhm.
mean, he didn't say like, "Oh, great," I mean, he was just like, "Good," like, but it wasn't like, "Oh, tell me more about it," or, so,
Mhm.
like, maybe if somebody else came in with Bell's palsy, he could say, "Oh, like, see an acupuncturist, see, like, energy medicine person." So I just wanted to bring awareness to him too, but he was impressed as well of like how much and I think I recovered faster with it for
Oh,
sure.
that's awesome. Do you happen to know, like, a time frame, like how long you
Yeah,
did that?
so it was about 6 weeks.
Okay.
Usually people I think it takes like 2 to 4 months. I still even 6 weeks, I just had a lot more function back. I wouldn't say I was 100%, but I felt like it was like moving towards that
Mhm.
better. Yeah,
Wow.
I
Well, I
know.
know people who've had that, almost become I don't wanna say permanent because it can definitely still change, but I know people who have had that for literally a decade.
Yeah.
So, the fact that you did only have it for 6 weeks is really that's so good.
Yeah,
I'm so grateful and so proud of you for looking for these complementary
exactly.
modalities, you
Yeah. I think if I just did a wait and see approach, maybe it would have taken longer. And like I said, it wasn't healed at 6 weeks, but I definitely got more function back. I could move the corners of my mouth, my eye. But yeah, but it still took a while for me because then you become hypercritical, right? Like take a selfie and then you're like, oh no, it's not right. But then at one point, it's like not both sides of your face look the same anyway. Like, like it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like I think I was getting kind of hypercritical and trying to make sure it's like symmetrical, and that's not really the case either, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know I never am on my face. So I totally understand that. But I've
Yeah.
also been hypercritical of my own appearance in the past as well. So
Mhm.
appreciate
Same.
that. I just like love that you were willing to look outside the box because even at that time, you said you were a nurse at that time, right? You'd
Yeah.
already gotten your degree and you'd already been practicing as a nurse at that time, yet you were still really open-minded to look
Mhm.
at that. And I just think that's really cool because there are so many people in the regular mainstream traditional healthcare system, right? And they're not. And
Right.
so what do you think made the difference for you that made it so that you were a little bit more open-minded? Do you have any ideas?
I'm pretty sure it was some of the upbringing, like knowing that there's other things to do when you're feeling ill. I think that, GERD, the reflux that was, helped and healed, by my sister-in-law. I think that definitely, I've always had it in the back of my mind. But I think that for me, it took a health thing for me to take action, if that makes sense. 'Cause my sister-in-law wasn't charging. She was just like doing it because she was family and she wanted me to, but then I never took action after, right? I had the 3 kids. I was a stress mess. I mean, I was like tired, fatigued, all this stuff, but never did I look into getting regular sessions or anything like that. It was until this health condition happened and something clicked in me that it's not okay to live like this. Like I really think the Bell's palsy, the preeclampsia, all of that had to do with my body never like just being out of whack,
Mhm.
for so long, with pregnancies and work and just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so you were talking also earlier about how some of your loved ones had some reservations. Can we go back to that
Yeah, sure.
a little bit?
Well, I think it was more so because, like, the reason when I went into doing some of the education for this work, I think there was a whole thing of, "What about your nursing degree?" Right? So that was where the skepticism was, is that you've, like, trained, you've put in all this work, you've worked for 17 years, and because I knew that I wanted to shift out of nursing as well. So a lot of skepticism came from, "Oh, well, does this work? Or what is this stuff you're doing? It's not, like, science-based," or, like, you know what I mean? Like, just what it like, and then it's not, like, how do you really know about it, and I would want to practice on, like, my dad and stuff like that, and he would always be like, "No, I don't believe in it. I don't wanna do it," right? And so then there was a part of me that would be very hurt, when loved ones would say no, but at the same time, as I went on, I was like, "Yeah, that's okay. I don't have to, like." It's not a forced upon thing for people, It's like I had to just let everybody be where they were.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that kind of like respect going back and forth is really can be just so powerful. And you're a great example of
Mhm.
how other energy practitioners can be when they're very first starting. If someone says no, don't try to force it, don't try to push it, right? But just
Right.
having the opportunity to just let them have their space and you know it as people go on and they see more evidence of how it is effective and it is helpful, then maybe they'll be a little bit more open-minded or soft-hearted about it. But
Yeah.
initially they may not want to just have you start doing
Yeah.
right.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and then I had, like, some family members that were totally open to it. Like, my mom had no idea what it was, but she was like, "Yeah, do some healing on me." So, it was just sort of like, it was just, like, hit or miss, I guess, is what I would say. And then the ones that were very, against it or whatnot. I wouldn't I just it yes, I definitely did wanna keep pushing, like, "No, no, no, try it," but then I said, "Okay, that's alright," because everybody has to make it's not us, like, forcing it upon them. It has to be sort of something that they're ready to do, ready to accept.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Well,
Yeah.
I was in a similar situation when I very first started learning. We had just learned how to align bones with using
Mhm.
energy only. You're actually not physically touching the person. And
Mhm.
so my dad was here and he was complaining about his hips. And I said, "Well, here, let me align them for you." And he
Mhm.
was like, what do you mean? Like, are you a chiropractor now? And I'm like, no, I'm not a chiropractor. And I put my hands up, on the sides of his hips, and he literally felt his hips move and shift on their own. I wasn't physically touching him. And he felt it though. He
Yeah.
knew,
Yeah.
he knew it had like shifted, and he looked at me and he goes, "What are you?" And I was like, "What?" And it scared him so bad, he left. He got in the car
Wow.
and drove 2.5 hours home. He left, and I was like, "What the heck?"
I know, you're like, "Wait."
But it actually worked, and that's what surprised him and scared him
Mhm.
a little bit. But I'm like, "No, this is just energy,
Yeah,
It's not what you're thinking," you know?
exactly.
But I love
And
that you're such a good example of just letting them have their space, and,
mhm.
the whole informed consent thing is really important to me.
It
So,
is.
having that ethical, understanding, like, yeah, people have to want that and sign up
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
it, you know? So,
Yeah, you have to want it, and, now I just, like even now that I've been in practice, for years, and it's like I still, I still get skepticism, right? And I think it's one of those things I tell them it's something that's I cannot explain, it's something to be experienced a lot of times. I think that's a big thing because I used to just push a lot of research, like, "Go to this, research website, look this up, look that up," because trying to convince is where I was. And now I'm just like, it's something that has to be felt, and experienced. So, and I still get people that are scared to try it or,
yeah.
or I don't know what, what maybe it could be, but I'm like,
Mhm.
if it can help you, do it, right? That's my belief.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so tell us a little bit about the modality or modalities that you do practice now. How did you come to choose that specific one, and tell us what it is?
Sure. So after that whole thing with the Bell's palsy and I recovered and I told my husband, I was like, oh, I really want to do this, like I really want to learn about it. I came across the Healing Touch program. I did a lot of research, right, with all the energy medicine modalities that were out there. And that one just really resonated with me because first I could do level 1 and get continuing education credits,
Yes.
which was important to keep my, when I renew my nursing license, right, I had to do a certain amount of continuing education credits. And it was just a good way to step into seeing what this is, right? So
Mhm.
that's how I did it. It was more like I did a lot of research and then I said, okay, this seems aligned for me because of the continuing education credits I got. And
Yeah.
I just kind of went in to the level 1 and honestly like fell in love. And I knew like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I was getting sort of burnt out with nursing in general, and I
Mhm.
wasn't home with the kids. We had them all in daycare. So I knew I had a goal, right? Like that I want to transition out of clinical nursing and have a private practice and just sort of work with people on my time, and just sort of have that flexibility so I can be there for the kids. But so
Yeah, that's
there's a lot of other modalities. I take courses and classes all the time. I've done like some tuning fork classes, aromatherapy, crystal work, chakras, and done lots of stuff, right? But that's the foundation is healing touch.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know a lot of nurses also do that, and it probably has a lot to do with the fact that it is an evidence-based modality. You can do it as a nurse, even in the hospitals, isn't it
Yeah.
offered as a complementary modality? It's definitely energy medicine. It's not, like something
Mm,
that you just learn in typical nursing. It's something
right.
that's separate. But tell us, like, if somebody was like, "Well, what is the healing touch?" How would you explain it? What is that?
Yeah, so I would say that what's a biofield therapy, right? So we're working with the human energy system, the biofield, and then the chakra centers.
Mhm,
And the practitioners, it's really, I feel like it's a partnership. It's heart centered.
mhm,
We're setting intentions at the beginning of the session, and it's like where we come together as practitioner and client
mhm,
to facilitate the healing for the client's highest good. And we're like connecting, clearing, balancing, energizing the human energy system. And what we're really doing with our hands,
mhm.
and we're placing the client in a position to self heal. is really what the goal is, is to restore harmony and balance to the body, which creates an environment for the client to start their self-healing process or accelerate it. And really it promotes relaxation. So to me, if you're going through anything physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, there's a lot of stress involved, I feel, right? So just shifting that body out of stress into relaxation, like I think just it's a cascade of things that happen inside the body because the body's always looking to be in homeostasis.
Mhm.
So, the healing touch, it's basically like it can be done, touching or, off the body. So it's really up to the client, what they'd like to do. I do distance work and I have, do hands-on in a private practice, but that's really what it is, restoring balance and harmony. We're doing assessment of the chakras, the biofield, hand scan, and we're really like just wanting to shift that human energy system into being more in balance.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I have had one healing touch session, and what I personally experienced was when you talk about like your energy field harmonizing, that's probably the best way for me to put it into words. And I kind of get emotional anyway when I'm a feeler, right? And I can
Yeah.
feel it. And I definitely had tears just kind of rolling down my face as I reharmonized my energy
Yes.
for what I was experiencing stress-wise at that time. And
Yeah.
it really did help put me on a different trajectory after just one session. And
Mhm.
that's really cool that even one session can help somebody in that kind of a way. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, it's the whole gamut, right? That whole physical, emotional, mental, spiritual levels, right? So whatever you're going through, I feel like energy medicine can help you with, right? So because the body coming into the body's looking to be in homeostasis all the time, and so we can say that, oh, I think stress has become this thing recently where it's like, oh yeah, we all experience it, like we don't have to do anything for it, right? But then the cascade, what happens inside the body when you're in long states of chronic stress, and like really deteriorating, I would say, like our body, body, mind, and spirit, then our sleep is affected, and then, lots of other things.
oh yeah, definitely. And the thing is, it's not that stress is bad. It's
Right.
that when you have ongoing, chronic, right, very like survival mode type of situations of
Yes.
it can really take a toll on you.
Full on you.
And so I know that like I meditate daily and I do my own self-care, but like if someone doesn't do that for a long time, it like can really affect you. And so having someone to kind of be here to help facilitate that along
Mhm.
with you. And I know that your goal is to help people to avoid things like burnout and overwhelm.
Mhm.
Like you're all about helping people to have that relaxation and
Yeah.
that stress. And that's one of the things that I really love about the work that you do.
Mm.
Um, who's the main type of client that you really love working with?
So, I don't know. I love working with everyone. I know every energy medicine person says that, but really, I love working with my parents, career parent. Both parents working, dual household, and I love working with them because I feel that they're being pulled in so many directions, right? The responsibilities of their career, the responsibilities of their kids. And a lot of my clients also have the responsibility of their parents. So they're in like this weird thing of like taking care of young kids, but then having like aging parents. So really helping them to find, giving them tools, right? Like, the session is one thing, but then giving them growth work, which is a really big practice of healing touch as well, which is like giving your clients tools, things that they can do on their own to keep the energy moving and flowing. So whether that's, grounding, breath work, just really giving them like a toolbox, as they work with me, because, seeing me, like, even if it's like once a month is not enough self-care. Like you have to do daily stuff for yourself, but career working parents is like my jam, I guess, because I think I was there. And I think that's
Yeah.
what caused a lot of my stuff. So I love
Mhm.
working with them to just know. And also because of that, like if you're more centered as a parent, you're more grounded, you can be better present for your kids. And, you
Mhm.
can be better able to take care of your parents, whatever it is, as long as you are in that balanced sort of state.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I know why you started doing energy healing. It sounds like the reason why you continue doing it is because of your passion for helping people
Oh,
um,
yes.
who
Mhm.
have found themselves in this situation, right? That's just awesome.
Yeah, so I love yeah, this is like my life's work. I feel that I guess my only wish would be if is that more people would like look into this as a part of like how you would get your nails done or massage done, like making this like a self-care, like I have to get this in, for myself. Making it don't wait for an illness. My first goal was more about wellness, right? It was like, oh, like do this before you get sick. Don't be like me, right? But I think, making
Mhm.
it a part of your self-care too, even if you're feeling great, just to come in and get your energy balanced is like huge,
Yeah, awesome. Well, and I kind of look at it as like, I once had somebody say to me, "Oh, I did energy healing once and I still had problems after." And
Yeah.
I said, "Like, you mean life? Like problems?" Like life is ongoing, right?
Yeah.
And so like no, if somebody's going into an energy healing practitioner, they're not like claiming to fix and solve all of
No.
the problems in your life. What they're doing is something that's totally different. So it is important to look at the practitioner and what they actually do, right? I
Mhm.
tell people to almost look at it like you're brushing your teeth. Do you brush your teeth once and then never brush your teeth again? Heck no.
That is a good example.
Every day. It's like hygiene for your physical body. And what you're talking about is energy hygiene. Do
Yes.
it regularly. Do things to keep that harmonizing and consistently balanced.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's so important, like, as energy medicine practitioners to really educate as well your clients. Like I have an informed consent where we talk about all this and that how like yes, it can support you, but this is not like, medical care. Like they do need to understand what it is. It's a part of like your like you said energy hygiene, your maintenance, your self-care. We're not claiming to fix anything per se.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and it's important for us to be able to also stick within the bounds of the law, the
Yes.
legal aspect. So I love that you have that informed consent as well.
Mhm.
So where are you going from here? What's next for you?
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm a forever learner, forever student. So I'm probably going to continue taking, more advanced classes, things like that,
Cool.
energy wise. But I think another thing I want to delve into is maybe like coaching.
Mhm.
Because I feel like I do a little coaching with my energy medicine work, that little piece at the end where we talk about growth work, what they need to do, how to do it, but also like more like parenting focused. I think I don't know, it's just recently it's been a real big thing of mine to get my parents to realize we got to heal our stuff. And so we
Mm,
don't pass it along, and just really helping them with their kids, coaching. So I think that's like another kind of avenue. I don't know when that's going to be, but
that's
that's
really
something I definitely want to look into. It's like
yeah.
helping parents differently.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love that. So, what would you say to someone who is thinking about doing a session, with the touch modality that you do?
Mhm.
Oh, you can do it distance wise. They don't have to be in person.
No.
What are some of the common questions that you might get about your modality, and what kind of things would you say to them?
Mm. Some of the questions I get a lot of times is, does it work? Right? That's one of like the biggest one. And we kind of talked about like how I navigate that is I will send them still all the information if they're really looking for a session, so that they can look at it. There's like a video that Healing Touch actually did. So I'll send them a lot of stuff to look at. But I definitely tell them that just experience it. That's the biggest thing. And then I talk about how like, distance work, because if I do get the distance work, how it's rooted in quantum physics and energy can travel, anywhere with intention, thought. So, and for them to just sort of experience it, I say I treat it just as if you're on my massage table here,
Mm,
where I'm working, and I
yeah.
use a surrogate, like a teddy bear, and I'm checking as if you're right there working with you. We set up a sacred space, intention. So I tell them kind of all the steps so they feel like they're prepared for it. But I would say, like I've always said, is it's something to be felt and experienced. I couldn't tell them this going to definitely do this or definitely do that, but it's something for them to experience. I would say just try it. I think that's my biggest thing recently is just try one session. I mean, you don't know until you try it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Well, it's there's so many different analogies that you could use, but like the one that is coming to my mind right now is I was talking to my dad one day and he was telling me, he said, "Did you know that I eat yogurt now?" And I said, You eat yogurt?" I said, "You've never eaten yogurt." He said that he didn't like it before. He couldn't stand the texture. He didn't like the way that it felt in his mouth. He just did not like it. But he said one day when I was visiting him, I left some yogurt in his fridge. I forgot it, right? I forgot to grab it, put it in my cooler when I was going home. So I left it there and he got to kind of, be a little curious. I wonder what that yogurt tastes like. So he tasted it and he went, "I can't believe how good this is. I love it." And I said, "You like yogurt?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he said that he had tried it once as a kid and he didn't like it. All these decades had passed. He's now in his 60s.
Loves it.
And he loves it. And I got a kick out of it because I said, "Dad, you tried it one time as a kid. You heard some things about it. And then you never wanted to try it all these years and look at all of the health benefits, that having yogurt has afforded you now, the probiotics and just loves it." That's the thing too. And so I kind of look at that as like energy healing. Like you never know. Maybe you tried one modality 20 years ago, or maybe you heard something about it, but then give it a try. Try a different modality or try a different practitioner. It may be your best thing ever. It might be something that you just really, really enjoy. So I love that. So Hetal, where can people go to find out how to book an appointment with you or how to connect with you, learn more about you? Where would you like to send people?
They can go to my website, probably the easiest way. Before I work with anyone, I do like a complimentary consultation just to make sure we're all on the same page and get to kind of know them. So do you have it or do you want me to tell? It's www dot, and then it's my name, Hetal, Hetal, and then Patel, PATEL.com.
Oh, Hetal H. Patel.
.com. That would be the best place.
I'll share the link.
Okay.
This is a beautiful website.
Thanks. So that would be the best place to start. And it has my email and all that, so you guys can reach out if you have any questions.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I went ahead and put the link down in the comments so you guys can please reach out to her if you happen to have any other questions. I loved your stories. I love the stories about your grandma. I love the stories about even your experience after you had your son, Ethan. I loved the heartburn story about how you came to know about it. I just really appreciate you opening up with us today, telling us more about your childhood and how you know about this. I just really appreciate you. And thank you for helping us to make it a little bit more real for people from all walks of life, all different belief systems. This is a universal thing that anyone can benefit from. Are there any closing thoughts that you would like to end with today?
No, just thank you for allowing me to share my story and asking all the great questions. And I think if anyone is on the fence about whether to try it, or even if this is something you want to do, as a practitioner, or, even if you just do it for friends and family, the benefits just for the household by you learning, a modality is just multiplied, I think, exponentially. So whatever it is, if you're just wanting to try it or you're wanting to learn about it so you can actually even benefit your own family. Because initially when I did it, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great for helping my family. And then I went on to the certification and all that. But initially it was just the 5 of us working on myself, the kiddos, my husband, my mom, and then extended family. And it was, I think it's huge, a huge benefit. So I would say, go forth and, do it.
Mm.
Just do it.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, I love what you said earlier too about how it piqued your interest, helped you with your heartburn, it helped you with these other things. But then what you said was this is part of your life's work now. Like how
Mhm.
important it is to you and that difference of helping to make a difference for other people. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here, and we'll connect with you later in the future. Appreciate you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank
Great.
you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.